OWWR Pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series one book at a time. But today is a
We're
Tuesday,
four best friends.
and we're four best friends because we're inviting CM Caplan, Connor Caplan, and Sara of Fiction Fans fame onto the podcast to discuss Wheel of Time Season 3. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
It's great to be here.
No,
we have a Wheel of Time expert on the pod today.
Sara is our Wheel of Time.
No.
Yes,
Sara knows everything.
If we get anything wrong, we all blame Sara. We're all
exactly.
that, right?
Okay, that's fair. But also, I am not an expert.
Scholarly journal, Sara.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
our own personal Wheel of Time Wikipedia.
You guys are our resident experts because you have been on for, the past season and now this season.
It was kind of both seasons, right?
And I think you guys came on for season 1 as well. So, or at least Sara did. So Sara's been with us this entire journey. Connor, you came on season 2 and 3, I believe. And I think this time around we all just were like, so we're doing this together, right? Like we don't even have to ask if you guys are coming on the podcast. So
I'm pretty sure that I would have invited myself.
We're gonna have to find another show moving forward, apparently.
So this is a bittersweet recording because literally yesterday, as we were all getting ready, Wheel of Time was canceled. So everyone pour one out for.
Hopefully, this is not where you're hearing about it.
Yeah. Oh God.
I genuinely considered having like a shot of whiskey or something so that I could have some kind of consolatory drink doing this episode.
I wish I knew more about the world building in Wheel of Time so I could mention some sort of specific funeral rite that we could really do.
I mean, may the show always find water and shade.
Yes. There we go.
There we go.
I was kind of hoping that this would have like a rebirth of sorts, that the show would get picked up by another group and be remade similar to the end of A Memory of Light. I won't reveal anymore.
I'm still holding out hope that another studio will pick it up. Right now, there is a poll on like Sony's YouTube page or something where they're saying like, if you could only watch one show, which would it be? And it's like The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, one other show, and Wheel of Time. And so clearly they do think that there's still interest in the show. Yeah. And there is, like, there's a huge fandom. It's doing, like, it was doing pretty good numbers. It was top 10 on Amazon for quite a long time. It's the highest like rated fantasy show on Rotten Tomatoes. I think.
Clearly the solution is someone needs to air a version of season 4 that's about 20 minutes long, direct to TV, with the dude from Titanic, Billy Zane or something like that.
So
and then eventually
you're saying it should do Winter Dragon.
Exactly.
Winter Dragon season 4.
Winter Dragon season 4, and then somehow eventually that'll sort of the ball will roll eventually, and then we'll get season 4. Yeah, exactly.
Rafe, if you're listening.
I think from what we've heard, obviously this is brand new, but it's like they didn't think the viewership was there, which is just kind of ridiculous because it is pretty highly rated, and they seem to make it pretty cost effectively for the type of world building the show needs. So I'm very shocked that this decision has been made.
What frustrates me is that they have not made a similar decision with Rings of Power, and regardless of my personal feelings about the quality of that show, it's more expensive and the viewership is less than
I'll just say, as somebody who likes the Rings of Power show and has stood up for it, I think that should have been canceled and not Wheel of Time. This is coming as a Rings of Power fan, so I think Rings of Power should have been canceled.
I think there's almost that weird, everyone knows Lord of the Rings, but people don't know Wheel of Time, and it's like, well, there could still be buy-in from that. More people get introduced, even if they watch Rings of Power, they could be introduced to Wheel of Time as kind of the transfer over.
I almost feel like Bezos feels like he has put so much money into Rings of Power that he can't let it fail.
Yeah, that was the vibe I got from it. Yeah,
I also think we put and this is not saying anything, but I think billionaires are put on this weird pedestal of like, ooh, they have some Machiavellian, like, where sometimes I think they just wake up and they're like, it's the wrong type of day. And they're like, yeah, that show's just not doing it for me. And it's just like,
Yeah.
okay,
kind
well,
of.
that's why, yeah, that's
And
why
they
this all
and they
happened.
also, like Sarah was kind of getting at, die on weird hills of like, I must finish this show for unknown reasons.
Right.
Just
Like
waking up,
this is my
tying a show to
baby.
railroad tracks.
Yeah.
And
And
honestly, you
it's
could have just left it in the dark even
right.
more. Like as it is, I don't feel like it needed any kind of conclusion or anything with Rings of Power. It could have just stopped. This
Yeah.
feels so empty, knowing that this was the last Wheel of Time
Well, and the
set of
last
episodes.
episode is on a
What a
huge
cliffhanger.
cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I don't even know if they're going to be like, well, we'll give you one TV show to wrap it
They're
all up in a
not.
very
I don't
unsatisfactory way. Like, yeah.
I don't think they are because I had some friends who were reading articles about it. And so, caveat, I have not seen this uh, myself, but they were saying that some of these articles were quoting like Amazon as saying it was season 3 wrapped stuff up. Season 3 did not wrap
What did
anything
it
up.
wrap
No.
up?
Yeah, no, there's like more questions
If
than what
anything, it
even with
like
the
yeah, it left a bunch of stuff open ended.
It
yeah,
expanded the world beautifully. And then it
yeah,
was just like, did you see all this expanded universe that you really want to see more of? Nope.
Too
Nothing
bad.
else.
right.
Like,
Yep.
well, what it is a bummer to start out on. But
Yeah.
I think overall, we were saddened by this because we did like season 3, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I really liked it.
I mean, I've
so
been a fan of the show since the first season,
Same.
but I do think that season 3, like the show has just been getting better and better. And season
mhm.
Yes.
3 continued in that vein. Like it was a huge improvement over seasons 1 and 2.
So
Oh, I'm gonna be
Hmm.
the odd one out here. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I did have a good time with it. I liked it, but I do think I didn't like it as much as I liked season 2. I think season 2 honestly, I think it goes in descending order in terms of my favorites. Season 1 and 2 are basically like sort of tied for me. And if you really had to put a gun to my head, I'd say season 1. But season 3, I really liked it, but I do feel like it was a bit less focused than the other two.
okay.
And some of this might be from like I stopped reading the books around book 3. And I was going and expecting, okay, they're basically going to stick to the basic format of book 3, and then they started doing a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, what's happening? Where's
So
Well,
Calendor? I'm
book
so
four
upset.
I
is a huge focus in this, and that was
Yeah,
Yeah.
like my favorite of the whole series. So I felt like this season to me felt like the truest to the books, uh,
yeah. I have no
without making
reference or
tons
point
of
of comparison.
changes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for any of
book
that.
4 is also my favorite, and they pull a lot from that book in this season.
Hmm.
I think it feels maybe a little less focused to you because the group splits up, right? They start
Yeah,
going in different directions, and so you have to follow these different storylines, and that's hard to do in um, 6 episodes or 8 episodes or however many
yeah,
we
yeah,
get.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I do think too, it's a bit of a shock because I think that three of us just kind of binged this recently, and it is a bit of a shock to go from like not like I didn't rewatch the first and second
yeah.
season before
Neither did
binging the
I.
third, but when you go into the first episode of season 3 and the pace is like lightning
Yeah.
fast,
Yes.
Oh
it
yeah.
is very shocking. So I think that that can maybe set off viewers too to be like, what's
Yeah,
happening
this
here?
Yeah.
the one criticism of this season that I have, and this is not on the team making it at all, really, because I think they did the best they could, but it is so fast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They really needed at least another 2 episodes, preferably more, in order to cover all of the things that they covered in this season. So they don't linger as much on things, and that is kind of
I
to
think
the
that's
detriment
Yes.
of the
So I
yeah.
season.
I
so
think
in
that's
this
what I'm getting at when I
season,
say it feels a little bit unfocused, is that like it's
it,
going really quick and some
Hmm.
of the stuff doesn't fully sort of like have time to sink in the way it needs to. But it like and again, I did really like it though. I did think like in spite of that, I think it worked for me more than it didn't.
so I do think like in this season, so much happened. So listeners, you probably already watched the show because like, why would you watch an entire series like wrap up? But like, you get the Aiel waste with Rand going on that journey, getting the Aiel behind him and the war breaking out. You get, Swan and Elida in the tower having those like Machiavellian like political intrigue type things. You have Perrin going back to the two rivers and fighting Trollocs, and then you have Matt going to Falma with Elaine and Nynaeve, and it's just like it's a lot of stuff happening. And I do think Sarah's right. 2 more episodes would have helped because I really liked this season, but for me personally, I didn't care very much about the characters because they didn't have like full on emotional arcs for me, other than like plot points needed to happen, and they got to those plot points.
I think this is more of like a studio and just like the way that television has shifted, though, where they're afraid to do long seasons. There are very few shows now, newer shows, that get more than 10 episodes, unless they're like just a quirky sitcom like Abbott Elementary that's going to get, 20 episodes for a season because they have to follow a school year. I don't think that many of these shows that are coming out that are newer, the networks are willing to take a chance on giving them like, let's give them 20 episodes for a first season and see how it goes and allow them to expand the world and everything and give us individual takes. I think they're just not willing to do that, and it's so hard to pack everything in when you have this much going on.
But for a show that didn't have that length or that like room to breathe, I think they focused on what they should have focused on, which is like the actual world that we're sitting in. So they're like, well, we can't spend too much time with the characters. So let's make sure that like they're in a world that is like lush and like right for like seeing all the different people. Because the emotional beats that got me the most were like emotional beats involving other people who weren't the main characters. Like I cried twice throughout the season, and it was mostly when we were in the Two Rivers with like the Two Rivers people and not Perrin specifically.
I only cry at Perrin because he's so boring. I mean, to be fair, he's a little bit better in the show.
But I was just going to mention: is this show going to make me like Fael? Like, what's happening?
They made me like Leandrin.
Leandrin's
amazing.
She's so interesting. Like, and you're
and Lanfear. I like Lanfear.
They have taken these one-dimensional characters in the books and made them fully fleshed human beings, and it's incredible.
It's so funny because I was watching the extras. I watched the extras of like the first 6 episodes. I forgot to watch season 7 and 8, so it was like on a proper TV, and I couldn't toggle back like I could with my laptop. But at one point in one of their like round robin interviews, they're like, well, all of these bad guys, they have so many dimensions in the book. And I'm like, what book were you reading?
I was like, I don't remember that, but okay.
I don't specifically remember anyone being multidimensional, but like in the actual series, you're sitting there like Leandrin, you find out, she's been around for so many years that they talk about her as if she's a ghost in a haunted like castle that she grew up in. She was a child bride. Like you find out why she wants power and why she like hates men, and it's so reasonable when you like are watching her that she's just it's so amazing. And like
you're watching it thinking, absolutely, you can be one of the chosen. I believe in you.
And I'm so sorry, I'm rooting for her and Nynaeve's friendship. Like
I know
they just need to sort out their misunderstandings.
Like you two you'll get there. You love each other. You have a responsibility or a respect for one another.
They do have a bond though, because it's based in anger. I mean, that's what's causing Nynaeve's block, is she can't overcome her anger, and the primary motivation for Leandrin is anger. So they do have that connection with that anger there.
Well, I mean, I want the enemies to friends like 100K fan fiction.
That would be juicy. I need that. That's so important.
I don't even think that it's just like what you're talking about, Laura, anger. I also think it's a layer of fear. Like they both really dislike authority, but they fear not being in power. And like they're so similar in that way. Like, because I like in the extra scenes, they talk a lot about the actress who plays Nynaeve. A lot of her motivations are like, well, she has this very like big hatred for authority, but she also was an authority figure, so like it doesn't mesh well. And I think Leandrin's similar in that vein, where it's like she wants to be a Forsaken, but she also doesn't have the best respect for Forsaken, and it's just like so many different layers.
That's interesting because I wouldn't have picked up on that specifically because I was thinking of it more. I could pick up on a fear thing, but not like a desire for power for Nynaeve, and maybe not even a desire for power for Leandrin. Honestly, just more of a vengeance for Leandrin,
I mean,
and more of a just like fear of the unknown from Nynaeve is what I was picking up. So that's interesting that they tie it to power.
I
It
think they
feels like
both want power, but in the sense of using it to protect themselves.
Yeah.
they
Or
both
for
equate control
Nynaeve's,
with safety, I
Yeah.
yeah,
think.
for Nynaeve's case, she also wants to be able to protect her friends and her community. So it's
Yep.
not
Yeah.
necessarily power for power's sake, I don't think.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think that that's where it's coming
The
from.
foil going on here, I think, is like you get Leandrin in one. I think the last episode basically being like, I should have just let them like murder my son because that like that emotional attachment made me weak and everything, and it's
Hmm.
just, but like, and she's seeking power so that she can make herself stronger as opposed to Nynaeve who is seeking power in order to protect these people. It's like the opposite. Is like her love for her friends is not what makes her weak. It's this sort of emboldens her.
Right. Well, and I do think that's the difference between the two of them because
Yeah.
Leandrin becomes like so happy when she is able to remove any memory from the other child bride that she runs into. And you can see that like in her mind, she's like, if I would do it all again, I would want to be her. And she doesn't like have any of the self-reflection of like, I'm glad I'm the person who I am today. She's kind of like, nope,
Yeah.
I wish I was stronger. I wish I could remove that. It held me back. And she has a very like skewed view of the world.
Her
Yeah.
backstory was honestly shocking. Like I did not think that they were going to go there, and they really did. And I
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
Yeah. Eh,
This show is
Le-
just good. It should not have been canceled.
Well, Leander, like that, we talked about Leander and like she's so multi-dimensional, but like Lanfear this season is actually
Oh my
interesting. Like
God.
she's not walking in the room and screaming like Rand's mine and walking out. Like they actually add depth to her jealousy
Yeah.
and they make it realistic for someone who like deeply loves someone who she keeps meeting time and time again as the wheel turns. And it
She's
actually makes you root for her and Rand's relationship in a weird, fucked up
I was
way.
gonna say,
Yeah.
she's
was it
not
you, Connor, that said something in the group
Yeah, I
chat
was
about
like,
like I kind
I
of
know
get
Egwene. Yeah, I was like, I know Egwene is mad at Rand for like sleeping with her and like having this relationship with Lanfear and everything. But like, I support him. I support.
yeah.
It's absolutely like a terrible thing for him to be doing. It's like very clearly not a good choice. But I support him 100%. I just yeah no, it is the wrong choice, and I'm here for it.
Well,
Well, the thing that I love about Lanfear in the show specifically is that she's more than just a caricature of a crazy ex-girlfriend. And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
basically what she is in the books. She is this one-dimensional crazy ex-girlfriend who continues to pine for
She has
Rand.
big boobs. Don't forget that. Most
yes.
beautiful
Yes.
woman in the world.
She took out
That's what you mean when you want a
Moraine.
well-rounded character, right?
Yes. Well-rounded boobs.
Well, she took
Yeah.
out Moraine because she was literally like a woman near Rand, not like this
Yep.
powerful person who was supporting him. So, like, yeah, it's
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
one-dimensional.
And in the show, she actually has motivations, and like you were saying, you start to root for her because she
Right.
feels like a person, and you can understand why Rand has this relationship with her, even if it's not a bad idea, not a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you can see how they develop their relationship and why he feels like compelled, not in the Wheel of Time sense, but
No,
why he feels like he actually likes her and they
Mhm.
understand each other.
Yeah.
because she sees him like again with the extras. It's very funny to me. Please go back and watch the extras because it's so apparent that no one is like rooting for Rand and Egwene in these extras. They're like, they're kind of together for nostalgia purposes, and
Yeah.
it's kind and like it
Mhm.
comes down to like everyone thinks it's just like a trauma bond that brought them back together because so much has already happened. Um, but their breakup scene was so realistic of two people who've
Mhm.
just grown apart, and like if they stay together, they're just gonna really, really hurt each other because they don't know how not to.
It was
Uh,
so interesting though in that scene, like to see that depicted because I feel like in the books, I don't know that I felt like it was as deep as it became in the show. Again, it was just very like okay, well, we're kind of done. And it just fizzled out. It was just like not even there. Sarah,
Well, in the book,
you could
she
add more
literally
context to this, maybe.
brings Elaine into the room and she's like, I've decided I'm no longer interested in you. And now Elaine gets
Yeah.
you. Like, that's what happened.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't that what happened in book 4 was that he like declares his love for Elaine and then he like goes off and sleeps with Avienda and there's like,
What?
oh no, I love Elaine though. And then,
So
I can love you all.
he starts making out with Elaine a lot. And then he
Okay.
kind of like
Robert,
finds
what are
out
you
he
doing?
has multiple partners or things like that. I mean, the TV show just does so much to improve
They
upon that.
do a
Like,
lot better. But I think that seeing the breakup between Egwene and Rand, to me, it was very interesting to watch it and see how she's so upset that he wouldn't have any like kind of knowledge of what was happening to her in the dream world, and how he, when he finds out, is upset, but he kind of like throws it back in her face like, don't be mad at me, like, you know that you don't want to be here with me either, like, you're just here to improve your status, I'm never enough for you. I'm like, this is what we needed though. This is the way we needed this fleshed out.
I feel like it really sets up the tension between Rand and Egwene that happens in later books.
yeah.
And so it makes that relationship development at the end of the series so much more believable than it is in the actual books. Yeah, because like here it makes sense and you can see how they get from point A to point C, whereas in the books it's just, yeah, okay, they don't like each other now, or she doesn't trust him, or you know.
In the books it kind of felt like 12-year-old dating where like as they become older they're like, oh, we have nothing in common, we're never going to date each other again. Here, like, we are meeting like teenagers at the beginning of the series and now they're moving into adulthood and it's like, no, there was genuine love and genuine romance, but there has to be a genuine end to that. And I think the TV series handled that well with their final fight because like Rand's not wrong when he's like, I'm just sick of not being good enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
And Egwene's not wrong to be like, but I still love you. It might not be the love you think you want or deserve, but like it is a form of love and it is sad that this is happening. And like it just made sense watching it.
Yeah, totally.
But
I did really like all of the like instruction of Egwene in like the dream walking and everything and how that was incorporated into the show. I thought that was pretty cool. I wish we could have got more of it, but was happy with what we got.
it was so weird to feel like there's going to be like 3 scenes with her, Tella and Riyadh, and one of them is her just kind of looking and smiling at all of her friends in their dreams. And I was like, I don't know if I needed this. Like,
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
That's
especially
fair.
at the end when you see Lanfear's beautiful hand come around Rand. I'm like, here for it.
But I'm so sorry. This is me at my worst, like most crass. But when that happened, I'm like, is she watching Lanfear give him a blowjob? Like, what's happening? Like,
I think they were just about to have sex, but I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. It was very random. It was just like weird movement where his entire body is covering hers. And I was like, what
Can
am
I
I
just
watching
say,
actually?
I love the phrase Lanfear's beautiful hand. Like
know
that in
what?
and of itself is just
I love that actress and they style her so perfectly and she
She's
just
so
acts
great.
it so well. She looks fabulous all the time.
I mean,
She looks
Natasha
like
O'Keeffe kills it in the role for
Yeah.
sure.
it's incredible. Like
Well,
just there's a physicality to her. Like I'm not just trying to say she looks hot. Like there's genuinely like she genuinely just
She's
sort of, like,
amazing.
it's like this sort of like you can feel the sort of intensity in a very physical way that's just sort of like she looks like a sort of marble statue that's been sort of come to life. She feels very ancient and powerful in a way that's just sort of like really
what's she supposed
I
to
just
do?
want to watch her like a nature documentary and just sort of like as she goes about her day like as this character and everything. It's incredible.
She really took off that awful wig from season 2 and said, I'm here now.
I also felt like in this season she did a really great job. Like the previous season, she was just very much straightforward evil, and we don't have a lot of explanation as to why. And now in this season, we did get that background info through Ruidin, and then we also have her and Rand interacting in his dreams and everything. And I just feel like she did a great job of kind of adding more emotion to the character of Lanfear and making us empathize with her being this person who actually once did care about people and kind of ended up just getting in with the wrong group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even her and Rand's breakup at the end was a little bit more heartbreaking than like Egwene and Rand's, because it was just like the next conclusion. But this was like an episode where Rand made his choice, where he's like, no, I've seen what you've been doing and you've been telling me what I want to hear. And I think you believe some of it, but you don't actually believe everything. And I misconstrued what you were telling me. I do wish, sorry, this is my rant and hill I will die on. Rand needs to stop dating powerful women and think maybe they want to be the mother of my children, because none of them do.
Oh, yeah.
We did start to get a little glimmer too of like him and Avienda kind of maybe having a spark, because she's like watching him interact with children and is like, oh,
I mean, the only
like
spark
that.
I saw her having was with Elaine. So
you know what? But you mentioned, Hannah, that this was the better way to set that relationship up, and I completely agree. Like it makes far more sense
100%
for Avienda and Elaine to have a relationship and then it to develop into, oh, but I also have feelings for Rand. Like that makes way more sense.
It also is a more realistic portrayal of polyamory, where it's like we have I mean, I'm sure there are certain polyamorous relationships where it's like, oh, well, two of us aren't involved sexually, but we have this partnership. But it does make more sense for the relationship that Avienda and Elaine had throughout the book series, where they were best friends and joined at the
They're
hip, and
sisters, yes.
And it just, this feels more real to the actual story, that they are both romantically interested in each other.
I mean, they were in love in the books. Robert Jordan just didn't want to write lesbians.
Yeah.
That's the thing that, like, I like the show more than, and again, as a disclaimer of having only read the first 3 books, but I like the show so much more because I feel like it's able to sort of take very clearly some misogynistic sort of stereotypes and just sort of like very, like some of the more simplified framings and everything, and it's able to make something that feels a lot more dynamic, at least to me. I understand that I'm going to be crucified by the people who didn't like the TV show, who thought like it needed to be more like the books and everything. But like genuinely, I really like the changes that they made. I think it serves to make for a sort of more well-rounded story, in my opinion.
The thing about the changes, in my opinion, is that they worked really hard to keep it close to the soul of the book. Or books. Like you can't, just the nature of TV means you can't do everything like it is on the page. And also these books were written a long time ago. Some of these things should be updated, but they are doing it in a respectful way. Like they're not just making changes willy-nilly for the sake of it. They're really thinking about what they do and how it affects the storyline going forward, and how it affects the characters and all of those kinds of things. So they're thoughtful about it, and that's why I'm okay with it, because it's like I don't always agree with some of the changes they've made, but I think that they're coming to it from a point of love and respect for the books and the source material. And that's not something I can say about every adaptation. Rings of Power.
Well, I do think like they've also been very clear of like the Wheel of Time is built on a world where the wheel turns and different stories get told, and some of them are very similar to one another and some of them are very different. And this is one of the turnings. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the exact one we read about in the books, which I think is an interesting way to like kind of talk to fans and be like, you know what, we're in a more modern era than when these books came out in. It's going to look different. It is a different turning of the wheel. Like, we're not going to argue about that.
I also feel like, as somebody who struggled with the books a lot, not at book 4, up to book 4, but like after that, I do feel like even books 1 through 4, that watching the TV show, like it was so much easier to visualize things that had happened, like especially like episode 4 in season 3 with Ruidian. Like when we're getting those flashbacks to the breaking of the world and everything. I remember when Hannah and I were covering Wheel of Time on our podcast, shout out, that it was very difficult for me to kind of wrap my brain around some of the things. And I remember Hannah telling me like, oh, well, you could kind of look at this as like a post-apocalyptic story that, you know, our current timeline was the past for the Wheel of Time. And I remember being like, well, I hate that because I can't understand how that was a thing at all. But when I was watching this show and you see like Lanfear and she's got her Death Star that she's in and like everything, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a research place.
No, I like it. I like her Death Star. That's what it's called. Yeah.
That's pretty much is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
But it was so much easier to visualize all of that. And it was like, okay, well, now it makes more sense to me that I can see it depicted on the screen and I'm not hating it anymore. Where before I was just like, well, I hate that. That sounds not like a thing. So I do appreciate the show was able to kind of open it up even for readers who were struggling to visualize things in the series like I was.
So I attended Jordan Con, which was back in April, and Sarah Nakamura, who is the show's like book consultant, um, was there. And I only got to attend one Wheel of Time panel that she was on because I was off doing other stuff. But it was for that episode, and she was talking about all of the considerations that went into like visualizing the boar, and it was fascinating to hear how they thought about bringing that from the page to the screen.
I think they did a great job, honestly. Like just seeing like how there's is the board like crackling
Yeah,
that occurred.
the like
Okay.
cosmic horror kind of eye looking
Yes.
out at you.
Yeah, that was amazing to see. Like I really loved everything about that episode and it just was very much like a beautiful and also like easier to understand the world if for someone who'd already read it. Maybe it's harder for people who haven't had that background info. I don't know.
Can confirm.
Can confirm.
I'm probably one of like 3 people who was kind of on episode 4. Part of that is probably not having the sort of the books as like a background. Now to be clear, to be fair, I tried to watch it a second. The first time I watched it, I was just generally in a bad mood, so I think that sort of rubbed off on my viewing experience. I watched the second time I watched it. I really liked the first third before they go into the city. Some stuff about the city I really like, but in general, this is very much a me thing. This is not like anything objective about the show or the episode itself. My tolerance for a lot of those Vision Quest stuff, is sort of like proportional to how much they're sort of a reflection of the character. And with a lot of the sort of scenes of Rand's ancestors and everything, it felt like it was more world building than it was a reflection of Rand's sort of like interior state, at least for me. And so like a lot of those, like when they just kept going, there was a part of me that was sort of like checking my watch a little bit, being like, okay, can we get back to Rand? This is the storyline I'm kind of invested in. I don't really feel connected to or wanting to know about the whole history of like the Aiel and everything. And so like this is again, this is a very sort of like personal sort of thing where it's like this is not necessarily like if you fuck with like the history of the world and the show and everything and like you've read the books and everything, you're clearly going to have a much better time with that sort of section
Also,
of the
like,
episode.
I do think you're not wrong that you're also coming in as someone who hasn't read all the books.
Yeah.
And so you're a good take because I think the other 3 of us know how important finding out about the Aiel being former Way of the Leaf people, like that is an overarching issue throughout the rest of the series. So we're all sitting there being like, ooh, the historical context of this moment is so important. And you're sitting there watching there like, I guess the Aiel are important right now, question
You're
mark.
like, I guess he needs a Paul Atreides moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did say, ooh, we're in Dune when they got to the Aiel.
Yes.
Like everyone circled around. I go, ooh, Dune.
I do also think, I mean, I think you have a good point, Connor, but I also think that it depends on the kind of person a new viewer is. Like,
Yeah.
if you're there just for the characters, then seeing this expanding world building is maybe not going to hold your interest. But if you're someone who really likes the world building aspects, then it's going to be great for you.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to couch it in that like there's no sort of objective metric I'm using for being like this. This is why I'm trying to avoid saying I don't think this episode was bad. It's just like my personal sort of like preference, especially when
I mean,
watching
there's
TV
nothing
shows and
wrong with
everything. Is
saying you
like,
didn't like a thing.
Yeah.
Let me
I
just
know, but I
tweet
don't
this out
wanna-
real quick.
I don't want to be one of those fucking
Caplan
reactionary like people,
hated
like
Wheel of
YouTuber kind
Time
of people.
episode 4.
I think it was funny because you got to see Yosho in a bunch of silly little makeup. So
Some of
when
them
he
were
had
quite
that
silly.
giant beard, it's like, okay, yes, I get. And his funny little like, now I have curly hair, but I'm still the same actor. I was like, yeah, we know.
Now I'm wearing a false
Uh,
mustache.
I will say that like I remember reading about passing through the arches in the book, but I like the way the TV show is putting that visualization in
Mhm.
there, similar to what Laura was saying, where like you have Moraine going through the rings and watching her and Avienda be like suspended in
Oh, that was
midair and that
cool.
like physical presence of them as they're going through this very internal journey. It was just, it hit perfectly. And then like watching Rand pass through the arches and like walk over the people who failed
Not
before
he
him.
doesn't go through
Yeah,
the arches. He's going
He's
through the
going through
crystal
the
spires.
The Crystal
spires,
Spires,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
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 It's
But
Matt who
like
goes through the
Matt goes through the
right.
arches of the
the red doorway.
yeah.
Right, sorry. But like watching him go through those crystal spires was like a perfect visualization of something I couldn't really picture in the books and just felt kind of like walking in and out of a room.
Yeah, I felt like episode 4 and then also, episode 8 with Matt, those were two episodes that really helped kind of clear things up for me as someone who was like, nope, hate that. Hate that that's what's happening here. So I do really appreciate the things that they did with that. I also really enjoyed Moraine being suspended up there and then
Yeah.
the visions that she was having and how she really that why am I not remembering the actress's name? She's so popular.
Rosamund Pike.
Rosamund
Rosamund
Pike.
Pike, thank you. Just the way that she acted that out and how you could see all the tension going forward and knowing that she had seen all these different futures of what was to come and everything. It was just so well acted and depicted that I was like, yeah, I didn't get these kind of feelings when I was reading the books about this situation and these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I really liked the Moraine side of things for that episode. Again, it was more sort of grounded in like the character sort of stuff. And also I really liked the sort of the framing of that sequence with it looks like a sort of like a coin's eye view of the whole thing, like as you're like flipping through these sort of alternate realities or like paging through a book or something like that. You're just seeing, and I like how the way that that tension combines with right at the beginning of the episode when they're like, it's dangerous to know too much or see too much about the future, and then she just gets overloaded with all of these visions and everything. Like, oh wow, I can't imagine how that's going to come back around.
Yeah.
I do think they did a pretty good job though too of like incorporating all the different like scenes that Rand saw
Yeah.
into the rest of the season and the importance of those as
Oh yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah. They did do a good job with that. Like I feel like I joked when I was like texting you guys about the episode as we were watching it, or it's like if it was sort of if I wasn't going to podcast about it, I might have skipped episode 4. But if I had done that, I would not be understanding basically. Like it was necessary for the story to do all of this because that really just sort of like enhances everything else about like Rand's arc in this season.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I really think that like the way that they even incorporated like Elida and Swan Sanche and Moraine like all into this, it was very much all tied into what he is seeing in Ruidian and how they all need to be connected here for the last battle.
Man,
Yeah.
did they cast Elida perfectly.
Oh, I'm
Oh, that was
obsessed with her.
great.
She is amazing. Like what
So
an
apparently
actress.
fans online wanted her to play someone else.
Yes, so the original like way that she got into the show was that fans wanted her to play Kazuan.
Who
And
is
they were
that?
like
Oh.
pardon?
I forget who Katsuin is.
She's an
I
old
think
Aes Sedai who
Mhm.
comes
yeah, I think
back.
she's
Okay.
a little bit after
Yeah.
I don't think
York,
she's actually
like
made it into the
Oh,
books
yeah.
okay.
yet.
That
No,
would be
she
why I don't
yeah,
remember.
no, you wouldn't know her yet. She comes in later on, and she kind of is like an advisor to Rand.
Mhm.
But people
Kind
were
of like
really
his
pushing
strict
for her to
mom.
be Cadsuane, and she heard about it, like about that petition, and I think then Rafe reached out and she was cast as Elida. And I'm still kind of sad that we don't get to see her as Cadsuane because I think she would have been great in that role too. But she kills it as Elida.
She's
She does.
amazing.
It's
And like
great.
it's interesting because she's almost this very again in the books, Elida was kind of just seen as like the person who was choosing all the wrong things because she was like too much of an idiot, at least in my mind. But like
Yes.
this
Mhm.
this series shows that like no, she is incredibly motivated by her own power for power's sake, or like finding out these visions and being like, well, if you know things, then you should use it to your best benefit. And she kind of goes against like the wise ones of like too much knowledge can hurt you. She's like, oh no, 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 too much knowledge is helpful for my own specific motivations. And watching her navigate this world is just so delectable. Like I loved every
Yep.
single moment of it.
I also love that moment where we have Swan Sanche say to her, I think I misunderstood, sister, or something. I can't remember exactly what it is
I
that she
think
says to
I've
her, but
like, yeah, like
she's
misjudged you or
apologizes
something
to
like
her
that.
basically, where she's like, I misjudged you, sister. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is perfect because I think we all, like reading the books, didn't quite understand this character. And now we have more of an idea of like, yeah, this makes a lot more sense
Yeah.
as to why she is the way she is.
I would quibble a little bit. I don't think we misunderstood her in the books. I think
That
they just
okay.
added depth to her in the show,
Fair.
Yeah.
which is necessary. I mean, they're doing that with all of the characters that they bring in, and part of the reason they can do that is because they're not bringing in all of the characters. Like the
Yeah.
books have so many characters, but Elida is fantastic in the show, and you do understand her motivations. I still think she's making terrible decisions,
Oh
but
yes,
I can
Yeah.
at least
absolutely.
see why she's making them. Whereas in the books, again, and I liked the books, but in the books, it just feels like she's making bad decisions for the sake of being an idiot.
It's just
Yeah.
evil for evil's sake. Like, is that an evil choice? I will make it.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that an evil, stupid choice, really?
Yes.
Because
Right.
like she her biggest failing is she thinks she's the smartest person in the room at all
Mhm.
times. And if people disagree with her, they need to be taken down. Like that's kind of the read I get on her of like she goes into rooms, she tries to get them to like her, and then if they don't, it's like, well, I'm just gonna figure out a better way to make sure you fall in line. And that really does fail her because she's not listening to other people who have other ideas or can like see the world in a different way. But
Yeah.
she was a very interesting character, perfectly cast. I'm glad they have her, or had her.
What's everybody think about like the dynamic between Swan and Moraine?
I'm glad
I
that we got our fishwives.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
again, they were obviously madly in love in the books. Robert Jordan just didn't want to write
Robert
lesbians.
Jordan is a
Yes.
coward.
Yep.
Yes.
Who just had to like give them the most basic, like bitchy little romances in the world.
Yeah, because doesn't Swan after this she like gets with like Gareth or somebody
Yeah,
boring?
Who the
she
fuck?
gets with Gareth Bryn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gareth
You wouldn't
Bryn is just that name. See, like he sounds boring.
I mean, he's not a bad character,
Okay.
but
I don't want to
not.
talk shit about a character I haven't read before, but
his
also
romance with
he
Swan
sounds
makes
like he
no
was captain of the
sense.
football
No.
team or some shit like
He
that.
is
I mean,
a captain general of the
yeah.
Queen's Guard, so
Yeah.
you didn't.
Oh
Yeah,
my
You're
he
not
is
God.
wrong.
military.
I'm pretty sure it
Uh,
was a boring storyline if I
I never
remember right.
It's a terrible storyline. Like
Okay.
the romance makes no sense.
I'm glad I
Mo-
said it then. I don't
Yeah.
feel bad about
Moraine
it.
gets together. Spoilers for everyone, but Moraine gets together with Tom Maryland, and you're just like,
What?
but
Yes.
why? Yeah, it's just
Why?
Elaine's
thrown in
dad.
there.
She gets together with.
I
Because he's
I
there.
need to
Like,
get out an Ouija board because I have to talk to Robert Jordan. I just need to talk. I why would you what do these characters do they had any screen time together since like the first season?
I don't.
I mean, in the show, no, because I don't think that we would have gotten that romance in the show.
No.
Okay, yeah.
In the books, they
That's
interact
good.
a lot more, I think.
In the
Okay,
books,
well that
they
would
do
make more
interact.
sense. I would hope
It,
so if they end up together at the end, but oh my God.
I mean,
And
Robert Jordan is notorious for writing terrible romances. Not
yes.
terrible as in the romances themselves are bad. He just writes them poorly.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
sounds about right.
and yeah, Moraine and Tom is one of those.
I remember
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
being extremely annoyed with like the Elaine and Tom dynamic because there was like all this like questioning like and this is why I made the joke of like Elaine's dad because there was kind of like this hinting around like oh I was with your mom at one point and it was just so annoying to me in the
I'm
books.
so sorry. I was more annoyed by her like flirting with him, and then
Yes.
I was
someone
getting
being
there.
like and someone saying like he could be your father and you're just trying to prove that you could fuck the same man that your mom fucked. And it's like, what
I
are
was
we
getting there,
talking
Harry. You
about?
beat me to it.
Wild
Robert,
storyline.
Robert, what are you doing?
But yeah, so that was a
They,
weird dynamic. The romances don't make sense in the books because Sarah's right. Robert couldn't write a good, interesting dynamic romance. Um, but the fishwife scene was delightful, and I loved the Maureen and Swan stuff because it's just like it's two people who made an agreement to work for the greater good coming to terms with like now that like the rubber has met the road, it's having a lot of like reverberations in their relationship, and it's not as simple as we're doing the right thing. Like they have to make sacrifices.
yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately, the relationship is the sacrifice too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Sucks.
But it makes sense that's
Mhm.
how it pans out. So
yeah.
I was sad about it because I want them to have a happy ending. Obviously, that's not going to happen, uh,
Yes.
given that Swan dies at the end of the
Mhm.
series.
God, it's so
But
heartbreaking.
Is she
but it
supposed to be like
totally like
actually? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll
it
ask
it
after.
totally made sense for the way that the relationship plays out.
Yeah. Although this is what gave me the biggest laugh. Connor gave me the biggest laugh of this entire season when you sent us the quote of when Elida's talking to Swan and she's like, I remember you mooned over Moraine. And she goes, I know what you are. And Connor goes, a lesbian? And she goes, river trash. And Connor goes,
Oh,
oh.
okay. Literally.
I've been thinking of that quote for the last day and giggling to myself. Like, I know what you are. A lesbian? River trash. Oh.
I was so sure that was where they were going. I thought it was gonna be just like, oh yes, I know you really love and care for this person, and then no, nope.
No,
No.
It
that was
just
not where it went.
yeah.
Oh, so funny. But yeah,
Homosexuality is
I
okay,
think
but being poor is still not.
yeah,
no,
no, yeah, yeah, unforgivable, really.
Yeah.
I just I like I think a lot of the Aes Sedai stuff was my favorite part of the season. I really like the just sort of the scheming going on and everything. I'm a slut for a good sort of political intrigue. I don't know if you've noticed.
I
Um
would have never guessed
yeah,
that.
I
There's
know.
some
You
I
don't
really
say,
irony
Connor.
yeah,
thing.
no, really
wild.
not apparent. Yeah. I really like a lot of that stuff. A lot of the sort of like the different ways that each character will go in to try and solve like ways to find the Black Aja and everything. I like the initial interrogation scene and everything of the two they capture, and they're just like they can't get anything out of it, and then Elida comes in and they're like, we don't know, and she immediately just murders one of them. It's just like
Hmm.
it's so good. It's so good. Just the sort
Yeah,
of and like that stuff was the sort of the most sort of like tense, the most electric that the show really felt for me this season. I think that was probably my favorite arc.
yeah, that makes sense. Swan, my heart broke for her throughout the entire season because she's very
Yeah.
much like she was put into power because she was likable and she could outmaneuver someone politically, but she wasn't meant for like war times. It doesn't feel like because she had a hard time. Like she did sacrifice her relationship with Maureen, but she didn't often know how to handle like big sacrifices. Like if you look at Maureen when she's talking to Rand, he's like, you're pushing me and you're kind of maneuvering me. And she's like, yeah, but I would also murder you if I had to. Like I'm here to make that hard decision. And it did feel like Swan kind of struggled with that. And then I think that was kind of her downfall, unfortunately.
I
I feel
also
like she always
don't
had the best expectations of people, which is
Yeah,
hard in that type of position.
Yeah, I also don't think that Swan is actually that great at political maneuvering.
that's fair.
And that's part of what brings her down as well. Like she just plain gets outmaneuvered by Elida,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because she's not cutthroat, because she does have these, good expectations of people. Um,
Which is
and
interesting that she and Moraine kind of choose the position or are put into the positions that they're in because ideally maybe they should have swapped,
Maureen
well,
said
to
she couldn't do it because nobody liked her.
yeah, like I
I
think Lorraine
suppose.
would have been better at it, but
Yeah.
she would never have gotten the position in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of the reason why Swan has done so well up until now, maybe because Maureen was there to help support her.
That's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah. That
And
sounds about
then
right.
when she loses that support because Moraine is banished from the tower and off, helping Rand, she kind of flounders a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like the show is consistently about powerful women and their bumbling spouses. So,
Yeah, that
like,
sounds about right.
like you have
Oh my
Egwene
God.
and Rand, and you
Yeah.
have Fael apparently and Perrin, and it's just like, oh yes, these powerful women and that person over there who's kind of supporting them in a shitty way.
Can we
It's
talk
a
about
They're doing
Fael?
their best.
it's a great inversion of like a lot of the sort of standard sort of not just fantasy television, all of television usually goes where it's like not to generalize, but usually like men get to do a lot of the more interesting things and get to be a lot more complex and everything. And I really appreciate this the extent to which the show is willing to just be like, no, we're going to make women much more interesting on
Yeah.
average. Like it's just really refreshing. It's like this show's really good at writing women in a way that just I just really appreciate. It's really
Yeah.
I
it's
will
great.
I do want to give Robert Jordan some credit for that. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that the show does a fantastic job at writing these characters and bringing a lot more depth to them. But Robert Jordan very explicitly writes a series where women are in power and they do get
Yeah.
to do those sorts of
Hmm.
things. So it is in the text, it's just not as good
Yep.
Right.
in the text.
Yeah.
But
It's
Laura, you wanted to talk about
oh
Fael.
yeah.
Yes, could we?
Fael in the books is also
Sucks.
someone who walks in, screams at Perrin, and exits. And he's like, I
And
love
here's
my
the
me
thing, the parent
wife.
stuff is so hard in the books. The parent stuff is just a bummer.
And
Like
yeah,
Yeah.
and in the later series, it's a drag.
it
Everything that
was
Perrin does is
so
so hard.
yeah, it was so disappointing because like when I started the series, I was like, I think Perrin might be my favorite character. And then Robert Jordan was just like, I don't really care about the wolf thing anymore.
Yep. Yep. I
And
mean, I was just like you, Laura.
and
Like,
I was
Yeah.
Perrin started
so
out as my favorite character, and then he just tanks.
he
Yeah, he
became
really
That's
does.
awful.
so
And then
sad. I
his
remember really
relationships
liking him in
become
book one. What
awful.
happened?
It's
Wait,
Robert
so
Jordan stopped caring.
Like
Well,
Fael kind of happened to him,
there's
and then yeah.
there's
okay,
that,
yeah.
but also like his big like climax comes in book four. His
Yeah.
character arc peaks at book four,
Yep.
and then there's another 10 books where Robert
Oh
Jordan's
no.
like, shit, what do I do with Perrin now? He's had his moment.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because
Oh,
and this
that's
is
so tragic.
and technically what we're seeing is Perrin's big moment with the
Hmm.
fight in the two rivers. And I think the season does an effective job with Fael and with the two rivers of what it was intended to be in the books, and then just kind of fell flat after 10 books after that. Of Perrin is supposed to be the person who doesn't want to be a leader, but he knows his community needs that, and he's seen enough of the world that he can be a good and effective leader now. So he kind of takes on that burden for the common man. And he knows like there's going to be a difference between Rand's leadership and his leadership. And I do think that a lot of this happened to that because, like I said, my biggest emotional attachment was watching the two rivers people fight and like
Yeah, but that
knowing
had
that,
almost like nothing to do with Perrin.
but it had nothing to do with Perrin. But I do think that that was the point of it all is like, oh yeah, Perrin's going to be the leader of these groups of people who
Mhm.
won't be the main characters of the war. They're just going to be affected, and he cares and loves for them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Fael was actually, I said the show shouldn't have been canceled because it made me not hate Fael, just think maybe she's a little boring.
I also
Well,
didn't hate her, which I was surprised, and I don't really remember liking that character much at all.
I
I
remember.
mean, Perrin and Fael actually have conversations
Hmm.
in the show, which is wild. Like they don't ever
Well, I do
talk.
remember the joke about like, oh, my friend's horse is named Mandarb,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yes.
okay, so they actually played this a lot better than they did in the book too.
Well, because in the
Yeah.
book, it was almost like the blueprint of Fael was more interesting than what we actually got. Because I do think the TV show took the blueprint of like she's a hunter for the horn. She thinks she can do anything. She thinks she's powerful. And it's like, okay, I can get behind this. And then they just made her like a petty wife who was like, you should be the ruler of the two rivers. And here it was like, no, we're going to keep her as someone who wants to fight and someone who is invested in things. And that made her likable, shockingly, because I really also hated Fael.
The
Yeah,
It's
I was
relationship still
not a
seemed
fan.
rushed to me,
I agree
but
with that.
I remember
whatever.
I haven't read the book 3 since I was 17, so my memory might be a little not great around this, but to my memory, my only experience with this character is she and Perrin spend the entire book arguing,
Mhm.
and then suddenly she's in danger, and he decided that he loves her, and it's just like right
Yep.
the fuck out of nowhere. Immediately, just like 180s the second she's like, oh, I actually love this person I've been fighting with constantly and everything. Whereas, like, it's interesting how often the show is able to make these characters more interesting just by giving them stuff to care about.
Yeah. Because it gives her an entire backstory of her mom was a dark friend and
Hmm.
she
Yeah.
refused to take the oaths with her mother, even though the mom was like, I want you to do this so that we can still be safe. And then she tells the brother, and the brother is like killed over it, if I'm remembering
Yeah,
correctly.
the
Think so,
brother
yeah.
goes after their mom and she kills him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she like goes after the horn because she wants, glory, or she wants to find herself again. And that's so much more interesting than anything Fael did in any of those
Yes.
books.
I mean, I didn't necessarily like the change to her backstory. I didn't think it was necessary.
That's fair.
And
Took away screen time from other stuff.
yeah, like I would have maybe been more okay with it if we were getting more seasons and we could see how it played out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I do think that they give her more interiority, and she just like she again, this is the thing that I say about basically all of these characters. She feels more like a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
so I like her more. And again, like she and Perrin actually have conversations rather
Yep.
than talk at each other.
Hmm.
I do agree with you, Laura, that their relationship feels rushed to me.
yeah.
But it actually feels like a relationship instead
Hmm.
of a sudden decision that they're in love.
But
Yeah.
it's like, wait, I thought you hated her. Okay.
It is the
Weird.
hardest part of the TV series and the book series that it's like you are telling a love story during the time of war. And so sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think that Perrin and Rand, you can tell that they grew up in a small town where they're 19 now and they've seen a battle, so it's time to get married. It sometimes has that
Don't have much
energy.
time left. Need to settle
Yeah,
down.
Yeah.
and so when I watch it from that lens of like these are just two little boys from a little town who are like, well, it's time to get wifed up. Like Perrin was already married once. He's on a second marriage now, I guess. Well, they weren't married, but it does feel a little bit like small town married fast
Yeah.
type thing.
I
But
could
I
get those
didn't,
vibes as well.
yeah. I I also enjoyed because in the books, Fael is kind of like, you should be a lord because I'm a lady.
She's so
And
pushy in the books, and it's
yes.
just very annoying.
And in this one, Sarah's right. It makes her feel like more of a person where she's like, sometimes people fall in line because a leader is there who can help them feel motivated. And I think that person's you, but like you have to have the like courage to do it. And then he like accepts it by the end. And she's also fighting with him like I'm not going to sit here and like not participate or not help people because you're afraid of what's happened in your past. Like those all are realistic motivations and I didn't feel like she ever had those in the book.
Oh, absolutely not.
Agreed.
But overall, I like that I didn't hate her, but I also did find her and Perrin in this season rather boring and I thought the
They
people
were my
around
least favorite
them,
part.
yeah, like the people around them were way more
Yep.
interesting.
Even
Matt's
just the bit.
sisters like being Aes Sedai somehow and like
Well,
diverging from
that's
canon. Like I was
no,
way
no, no.
more
That's
okay with
that's
They
that.
were
canon
they were
because
canon. Yeah.
yeah,
Were they?
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, they show up at the tower though.
hmm
Like you don't really get to see their
oh, I don't
powers
remember this.
manifest. They show
yeah,
up at the tower and they're like, "Oh yeah, we want to go see Matt." And they find out that he's not there and they thought he was there the entire
yeah.
time.
But
Okay, I
they
didn't even
do
remember that.
canonically they do have the ability to
Mhm.
channel.
But this one
Okay.
is a better version of that because
Yeah,
wow, was that like their
Yeah.
scenes were
that was
so
way better.
intense. Yeah,
That was really,
where
yeah.
so, like, they're kidnapped by the White Cloaks because they're trying to motivate Matt's family to tell them where Perrin is because they believe that they know. And then the girls channel to like fight against Bane and
Dane.
Dane
Dane. Sorry,
Bornhold.
Dane. Ugh, so many different names. But they fight against Dane, and so it's revealed that like they're quote unquote witches. And the questioner ends up killing their mom because she says she's the one who channeled. And
Well,
it's
she
like a
takes
huge
credit for it.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's a huge motivational arc for the rest of the season where like Perrin throws it in Dane's face where he's like, you didn't need to do that. You guys decided to do that. You were a good person. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And then it does lead the sisters to kill, I'm so sorry, I forgot the questioner's name, but this like horrible person who's been here
Valda.
for 3 seasons, Falda. And they're the ones who take him out. And I loved that. I thought it was fascinating.
Same.
Yeah.
I do like how we do get like some questioning of Dane Bornhold in this where it's like, dude, you weren't checking into people. Why I thought you were supposed to be a good guy and you're doing this X, Y, and Z. Like,
Yeah.
think about this a little more, my guy. Like, come on. And I don't know that I necessarily remember that happening as much in the books either. So I did kind of appreciate more of the like questioning of the white cloaks even.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really remember Dane in the books. Like I know that he has this hate hard on for Perrin
Hmm.
because Perrin kills his dad, but he's
I
kind
want to also
of
say he was an alcoholic too, but I can't remember that
That was
either.
after his dad died, I think. I think he
Okay.
was pretty much straightforward until the daddy died, and then he becomes a
yeah.
man who screams, I'm gonna get you, Perrin, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like I don't remember him much in the books, but he's quite memorable in the show.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think they do a great job of building up that tension between him and Perrin and also like they're kind of foils for each other. Like Perrin does this bad thing to Dane. I mean, he kills Dane's father in the heat of battle, and he recognizes the harm that he's done and kind of like acknowledges that, yeah, I'm sorry I did this thing. It was not good of me to do. Whereas Dane does these bad things and he's just like, well, you hurt me, so I'm gonna hurt you.
And
Yeah.
he takes, yeah, exactly. He doesn't take any accountability for doing them. He's just like,
Yeah.
had to be done because I need revenge. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but
Right.
also you're harming a bunch of other people.
Which is also a huge problem of the White Cloak is
Hmm.
they are fascist individuals who think that
Yeah.
it is like black or white, and if you are not in the light, you are in the wrong. And like it's just not great. Although, Laura, I do love that Perrin does hold Dane accountable throughout all of these sections. I did laugh when Padan Fane comes through and he's like, "You're with Padan Fane?" He goes, "Yeah." And he's like, "He's a dark friend." And he goes, "I didn't know." And he goes, "Well, you should have." And I'm like, "How?" Like we have learned that the White
There's
Cloak
so many
Okay,
people
can't.
that are
okay,
dark friends.
okay, but to parents' credit, like Dane doesn't wonder at all why this group
Yeah.
of
Right.
people are coming in. They're absolutely filthy and covered in blood, and he's just
I was
like,
gonna
"Oh
say.
yeah, Trollocs makes sense."
That's
Like,
fair, but I did
I
laugh
was
at
gonna say.
that where I'm
Also.
like,
Also.
they never know who are actual dark friends. Like they're not good detectives. So like,
they're
how
not.
would he
Yeah.
Yeah.
know?
I was gonna say. Like. Also. Like. Of all people, like Patton Fane just kind of looks sketchy at all times. He's got like a little twinkle in his eye of just like he's just imagining you being skinned alive at all times. So it's like I do have a moment where it's just sort of like you should have known was like, well, yeah, you obviously should have known this guy's evil. He just constantly he's like basically one step away from twirling his handlebar mustache at all times.
I do think it was really effective because you can kind of see where Perrin and Fael might have problems in their relationship down the line because Perrin's whole thing is like, I don't want to kill. I think there are other options. And with Padan Fane, she like screams, kill him. And he is the first to be like, no, because if I let him live, my people will live. And like he makes that decision that I think she would
Mhm.
maybe disagree with. And I think that that could
Yeah.
have been interesting contentions moving forward in their relationship rather than what it was in the books, which is I don't think these two people liked each other
Yeah.
ever. So,
I agree with that.
because Parent does let I thought that was an excellently acted scene because it also
Hmm.
shows the the like failures of Padan Fane, where he's like, "You're afraid to die. There are so many people here, and the only one who's afraid is you." And like
Yeah.
that's very effective, emotional, like showing and not telling on the screen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the
Hannah, what was your most emotional part of the Two Rivers scenes?
oh,
You said that those
so
were your favorite scenes.
I I mean, we live in a pretty dark time right now, so I loved seeing like I said, I think the most effective part of Perrin's story this season was the fact that we're looking at these villagers who are never going to be the main characters still fight for their right to live and exist. And I think that that is very emotional. So, when Maxim has his rallying cry for the soldiers, where they're like, "We're beat, we're done," and he's like, your own, like, the people who are done are the people who have realized that they could potentially lose or something like that. Like he says, like, even though you know you might lose, even though you know like the chips are down, just keep fighting because like you have more power in you than you think. And I think like that's very emotional right now, where it's like watching people who don't have a lot of power fight for themselves is very heroic in a way that I don't think we often see heroism. Like in
Mhm.
these types of tales, we're following Rand, who is the dragon
Paul
reborn.
Atreides,
We're following
Yeah.
like Nynaeve and Egwene, who
who
are
is
two
Moses.
incredibly powerful like channelers. Who is Moses? We're following all these people who are like dealing with very high up issues, but like that's not the people who are going to starve down below. And I think having like they did mention that in the book series where like they're constantly showing the people who are going to be harmed by everyone's decisions. But I think sometimes that gets overlooked in TV shows because you're like so
Oh,
focused on the
absolutely.
high plot. And I really liked that they sat with the two rivers people so often. And you saw like the scene where the one channeler who's an older woman like fighting off the Trollocs, like, oh, that was beautiful. Um, and I also just liked all of Alana and Maxim's scenes together this season
Yeah.
because it was two people grieving and like their scenes got me very emotional because they lost this other warder who they both loved, and Maxim is like he was one of my only reasons for living. And like it's and him saying like you're not grieving, and she's like there's not room enough for me to grieve because I'm
Yeah.
Like,
drowning
who
in your
owns the
grief.
grief? And
Yeah,
Yeah.
like those were very heartfelt scenes to me, and I loved the people around Perrin, even though I didn't give shit about Perrin's
I
story.
do think they did a wonderful job though with that. And you're exactly right, where these scenes in the books or surrounding Perrin were so boring and frustrating that they did a great job making this very interesting. And it's because of all the people that were not Perrin.
Yeah.
Perrin
I
was a real boring person this season.
I really like how you described the scene where Maxim is trying to spur on the Two Rivers people. Although I'm pretty sure I didn't find it quite as compelling in that specific sense because I'm pretty sure he's like, "You're too dumb to give up." Is his like rallying cry.
No!
I think he's in I read it differently as like Two Rivers people are universally stubborn. Like if you look at all of them, they're the most stubborn people. And so it's like utilize and like that's Nynaeve's whole point is
Yeah.
Two Rivers people have value because they are loved, because they're valuable. And it's like that's all the Two Rivers people. It's like, well, you guys birthed the most important people, and that is important, but like you guys yourselves have value even after all of these people leave you. And I think that that's
Yeah.
a nice theme to show. But it
Right.
is, I
Especially
always get
for us sitting
annoyed.
out here in rural America that we're like, everybody hates us and leaves. So
Although I will be the first to admit, like even Suzanne Collins' work, I'm always like, why is she so focused on District 12? Like, why are all the characters District 12? Why is it always the Two Rivers? But you know, I digress.
Right.
yeah, I thought that the Alana character was very well acted and interesting too. I liked all of the dynamics surrounding like her warder who died and her warder who is still alive. And then also, but I do have one question though, because did it happen off screen where the Cawthon girls healed her?
No, it
No,
happened on
we see
screen.
it on
Yeah.
screen.
Why did because she says to him like, "Oh, you saved me twice." I'm like, "Okay,
Oh,
last time you had like a giant stab wound."
they didn't
And
show it the second time. I don't know if they actually saved her, like healed
okay.
her like I think saving twice was from the White Cloak. I think she was still probably
Oh,
injured. That was how I read it, but I wasn't sure.
Also,
okay.
can I just jump in real quick to say the healing magic really just sort of like throws a dimension into a lot of the sort of like action sequences that is like I kept having moments where I was like, oh my God, she's dead. They killed. Oh, okay, never mind. She's fine. But then there was also like the bit in like the with Elida, like with the prisoners and everything, where it's like this woman gets stabbed by a gray man, and then the gray man stabs Elida, and they go in and they only heal Elida. It was like the fucking bald bitch is fucking still there. You could have just
I
you
thought
could have
Joya
healed
was
her.
already.
What
I thought Joya was already dead.
Yeah, they can't heal the
I don't
dead
think
as we
they
find
can't.
through
Yeah, I don't.
Rand.
but like, didn't she just get stabbed in the stomach? Like, I thought that it was like the same
I can
kind of
see how
wound.
that
Like,
would be very confusing, though, to see one person brutally impaled and then saved, and another person laying there. You're like, wait,
yeah,
didn't the
they were
same thing
both
happen?
just stabbed in the stomach. Did she just get? Did they just like not
I
like?
thought that
It
her
wasn't
like.
that far in between both the stabbings and getting to her.
So
Like,
I haven't rewatched the series, or I didn't rewatch the series for this. I just watched it when it came out. But I thought that Joya's throat was slit.
Oh, I think
I
you're
thought it was the
right.
I
other
think it
person
may
whose
have been.
throat was slit. Did I
No,
misremember?
because the other
No.
person was killed by Elida.
Mhm.
Like she just like straight up murdered
Yeah.
that
Oh,
woman.
okay.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
Well.
Elida just she kills the yellow sister whose name I don't remember,
yeah.
and then is torturing Joya to try to get information out of her. And as Joya is about to like give it, the gray man comes, slits her throat, and then stabs Elida.
Oh, did I
Hmm.
forget?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I might have
It
just
happens
forgotten how
so
she got
fast.
injured.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is
No.
hard to figure out, like, wait a minute, why did we save
Yeah,
this?
like when are we supposed to care about these life-threatening injuries as life-threatening, and when
Well,
is it supposed to be like they're gonna get
as
healed?
Sarah also points out, the healing and like the warders and everything makes Alana a little lazy because there are moments where it's like, wear some armor. Like
Yeah,
you're in very
Literally,
important
Alana could
spaces.
she could at least have some kind of leather vest on or
get like a
something.
breastplate or something with
She
just
is in
She
something
gets
linen
shot
studded all
all
over
the
so
it.
many
time.
times.
She does not learn her lesson at all. She says, "I am Aes Sedai. I can handle this," and it's like, no,
It may be
everything
also
says you
reflect,
can't.
maybe I can't say for sure. This is maybe me projecting too much, but it may be also reflecting just like the grief and a lack of caring
Oh,
for
you're right.
yourself. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, I don't care about protection anymore because
Like
I
a
just
form of
am.
self-harm almost.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But that may be
I
a
mean,
reach.
I'm
I don't
sure
think
that that's
so. I
part
think
of
that's
it.
probably part of it.
Like I think you have a really valid point, but I'm still thinking like, girl,
Someone
girl.
should
Yeah.
suggest it at least.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you have been it's not just you've been shot a lot on one occasion. You've been
You've been
shot a lot on
impaled.
multiple occasions.
Yeah. It was very strange that she never tried to like actually get ready for battle. I mean, she has a green sister, which are like famously the ones that go to war. So
They're
you'd
in the
Hmm.
think she would
battle
have a better,
Aja.
yeah. So it is strange how little she prepared herself for actual battle. I kind of wondered if it was because she had so many warders throughout her lifetime that it just made her a little bit lazy. Because I also think a huge overarching theme of this series is the whole no one expected the Dragon Reborn to come, and everyone is kind of like rested on their laurels too much, and it messes everything up. So I did wonder if that was happening, but I don't think the TV show was probably smart enough to say it that way.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I do think that Matt Sisters, great ad. Like I loved
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
about them.
I guess I
Um,
didn't even realize that I totally blocked that out, that they actually were Aes Sedai.
it's a blink and you'll miss it
Yeah.
scene. Like
I
they
mean, I don't
come to the tower and everyone's like, "Oh, hi," and they have like a little like, "Where is he? He's
yeah.
gone," kind of thing.
I don't think they're actually like they're novices at best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Matt a lot this season as well. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
need to ask something about the series, which is like, does he go through every book with some sort of like spiritual, mystical, magical ailment, or is it just like
Kind
the
of.
first three? Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Like, yes and
I mean,
no. It's always in the background that he's under some
Hmm.
magical ailment.
I mean,
yeah,
he gets his issues early on and they stay
Yeah.
with him.
Hmm.
yeah, because like the first few seasons, he's basically just been under the Dagger's influence, and this was the first time. Like, it's fine, but I just like he wasn't really my favorite character, just because like it was like. I get that he has to act like this because he's under the influence of this thing, but after a while, I was just sort of like, we get it.
Oh,
Like,
but he's so much better in the show than he
yes.
is in the
Oh,
books.
absolutely,
Like,
absolutely. And this, I think, like season 3, Matt was, I think, some of my favorite stuff from him. In
Well,
that
he
just
finally gets
he's
to be a little bit happy again. Like
Yeah.
first season,
yeah,
he's kind of like had to
he's
go
just
lucky and then tortured. That he's just tortured
yeah,
until this season. So
The
right. So this
dynamic
is the
between
first
him and
time
Min
he's.
is a good add too.
It's so
oh,
good.
Yeah.
I want their friendship to be the greatest friendship in the entire series. I
I
It
never
want a
want it to
is.
go
spin-off that's
away.
just those two. It's
Hmm.
just
So
they
funny.
were so much fun. Every scene they were in, I was just immediately
Yeah.
like,
Their
oh, thank
dynamic
God
is
it's these two.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I,
great.
I love them so much. I'm gonna be so sad when they like
I want like a buddy comedy road trip with the two of them just going anywhere. I would just
I would
watch
watch
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really just don't care about Min and Rand so far. Like
No.
Yeah.
obviously they don't have those two together, but I still couldn't
I
care
didn't care
less
about
about
them that
those
much
two
in the
people
books.
because like Min is so much more interesting as Matt's best friend.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I
But
like how often, again, I really like how often they're able to solve things in the books by just like maybe we just make this person more interesting and not just tied to Rand.
Hmm.
yeah, it's a wild thought. Maybe Rand is the most boring character, guys.
I just what I like about like Matt, what makes him the sort of like he's the most interesting of like the sort of three and everything, in that like he's just so much more pathetic than the other two. He's just constantly just sort of a mess in a way that the other two don't seem to really get to be. In a way that it makes every scene with him just a little bit more dynamic.
I do think he's the more interesting of the three main characters because he
Yeah.
has more heart than the other two. Like the other two are just like, I am hero, watch me hero. And Matt's just kind of like, I just want no business in this. And then
Yeah,
he gets
he
thrown
really
into the most
Right.
important
tries to
storyline.
avoid any type of interaction with all of that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think Rand would be a lot more interesting if he didn't have 8 books of being emo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Rand, once he gets over his emo phase, Rand is great and I love him. But those like 8, 10 books, however many books he's like,
That's so
I'm
many
killing
books
people
too.
and I have to count the women who have
I have,
died and
yeah,
recite their
Oh
names over
God.
and over and over.
Because
And I'm
those are
like,
the
my
most important
God.
ones.
I also
Like,
hated all of that, Sarah.
yeah. Like
I
Yeah.
do
once he
think a
gets
lot of
over
people,
that, I like him a lot.
I do think a lot of people though are drawn to Matt in the books. Like
Yeah,
people
sounds
really
that way.
like Matt in the books, and I think he, in my opinion, becomes a much better character as you move on.
Yes.
And I think this is kind of like the starting point for him in terms of like when really started to like kind of turn a corner with him because he was very annoying for the
He's
Well,
first
no,
few
he's the
books.
reason
just
why I
kind of
stopped reading the books the first time.
yeah. Well, I think in the first books he's a little bit just kind of, for lack of a better term, racist. Like he's just there being
And
like,
immature.
people with power are disgusting and they disgust me. And like it's hard when you're reading about all these powerful people who are showing like they have specific motivations to have the one character who's just kind of being shitty to all of them. But the TV show has pulled back on a lot of that stuff,
Hmm.
and they're just like, no, Matt's just someone who has wants no business with
Mhm.
power because he sees it as like messy, and I think that that's a much more
Yeah,
effective use of Matt.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I do like his scene a lot though in episode 8 where we get that like Eelfin. Is it Eelfin? Is that how you say it?
It's the Eelfin, yeah.
Yeah.
Eelfin. Yeah, I think that was another thing that was like hard for me to picture again, and they did a really good job kind of fleshing that out for me.
I
I
love
mean,
the costuming
Yeah.
choices that they make because if you look closer at the Eelfin, you can see that all of those pieces that he's wearing or it's wearing is human. Like you can see ears in
mm,
things and
I need
it
to
just
rewatch
it's
that scene.
so
Holy shit.
creepy.
yeah.
Yeah, like shout out to Sharon Gillam, who I think that's her last name, who was the costume designer for the show because she did an incredible job on everything.
Yeah,
And like and
every
her
person
team,
honestly.
like they
Yeah.
deserve to be nominated for all of the awards
Yeah.
because
Agreed.
just the costume design is spot on for every single like little detail.
For sure.
Yeah. It's really good.
Or as Connor referred to the Eelfin, furry Pennywise.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Connor,
I
you really had some zingers in that group chat.
thank you. I really
You
tried.
did.
Uh,
Can we talk about the most important scene of the entire season, in my opinion? That beautiful fight scene between Galad and Gawain and
Oh my
Gawain.
gosh.
that was
Galad
fun.
and Gawain. I did not care for them in the book series, and I do not care for them in the television.
I mean,
Well,
I
we're
don't
not
care
watching that
about
scene for
any-
their personality.
No, I don't care about their personalities. Who cares? We don't know anything about their personalities, and we will never will now. But
They're just loudly having sex in the tower for no reason.
but we can rewatch those scenes of them
Yeah.
fighting.
You're just watching a couple
Forever.
slabs of beef have a sword fight, right?
I do wish that their fight with Matt was in front of everyone and not in
Yeah.
private, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't love that they just kind of had that be like a much more serious,
Yeah.
menacing
Sort of
one for
tacked it
some
on.
reason. Like it just didn't feel necessary.
I was expecting him to jump in the initial thing where they're all shirtless and everyone's fawning, and he's just
Same.
like,
Yeah.
they won't upstage me or something like that. Like, I was thinking that was where it was gonna go, and then they're like, no, let's do the same scene again, but with Matt this time. And it's like, okay,
Which, because
but
if I'm remembering right, Matt was kind of practicing, with his quarterstaff and everything, and he was like really good at it, and
Yeah.
he challenged them, and it was a bigger deal.
Well, I'm pretty sure that like they make fun of him for it,
yeah,
Mhm.
for using a quarterstaff, and he's like, "Nah, I can still beat you guys just with this."
yeah,
That
But it
happens
is in
in-
front of everyone.
Yeah, that happens in
Yeah.
both, but it is in front of everyone. I also
Yeah.
didn't love that like Galad's whole thing was watching Matt come in pushing women and being like, you seem like you're an abuser. I was like, I didn't need that. Like you could just have Galad not like Matt. It was weird plotting where they both seem to come in when like Matt's having an altercation with a woman for some reason.
And also,
it's also
the
very like that
irony
doesn't-
of Galad being
I
the
know.
one to. Okay.
Well, because
it
he's
doesn't
so
seem to track,
chivalrous.
especially with just the whole like it's clearly a matriarchal world and everything. So why would he be like, I must stand in to protect this person or whatever the fuck in the same in that
'cause he
kind of way where it's
sucks.
like
Because
that
he
seems
just
like
sucks.
it's relying on the
He
that sounds
sucks.
about right.
But
Yeah.
it is like
There's no need
relying
to
on
analyze it any
sexism
deeper
for-
than that. He
Yeah.
just sucks.
He does
He's a
suck.
bad character.
So sorry. And Gawain's hair was so stupid. I couldn't take it seriously. Like, where did he walked right out of 2008 with that hairstyle. So
They
yeah,
live in
but-
a fantasy world in a kingdom full of scene kids.
I did
You don't
appreciate
understand,
Elaine
Mom.
also
It was
being
never
over
a
on the
phase.
side and being very annoyed, just like rolling her eyes like they always do this kind of crap.
Yeah.
That was
fun.
very good sister dynamic.
I found their scenes so wildly unnecessary at the beginning of the season, and it's
I
almost
didn't
to
have
make-
many scenes.
No, but it's almost to make Elaine more interesting. And here's my not hot take. Elaine has some of the most interesting plot points in the most boring beige character I've ever met.
I mean, tracks with the books.
It does track with the books. I'm like, wow, they really just were like, you know who we're going to be true to form on? Elaine.
I did like the beginning sequence with her mother. That I thought was
Yeah, that was
pretty
good.
cool.
That was a
good.
good cold
The opening
open.
stinger with her mom was really cool too.
Yes.
Elaine, to be fair, she does get the best banger in
Oh, yeah.
the show.
She
Yes.
does.
Best song.
But again, if you put that on any other character, it would be raised like 10 points in my mind, and it's already pretty high. But I'm like, oh, I just don't care about Elaine at all.
I mean, I did
went-
really like the scene though. That was, I mean, like it's worth it for me, and that we got
Yeah.
that scene out of it.
Yeah, the Hills of Tanchico was such a bop. Like
I
when
was
that
so
started,
nervous about it
catchy.
at first. I was so
Yes.
nervous as the scene is starting. I'm like, okay, is she gonna be a terrible singer? But then I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
well, she's a princess. Surely, like in medieval times, like people were trained to do that. So please,
I
please.
went in
So-
thinking I was going to be
Please.
cringing, and I
Yeah,
really
I
enjoyed
was
it.
Part
so
of the-
terrified it was gonna go that way.
Part of the reason why they gave her that scene was because I guess apparently Rafe had heard her like the actress sing at a actor party or something, like
Yes.
some get together, and so he was like, okay, we're gonna put you in a position where you sing on the show. And then
Mhm.
Sarah Nakamura had really wanted to do like a body song. Body
Yeah.
is in BAWDY. And so they like the writers got together and one of them wrote it.
I dig it.
That's fun.
It's an
And it was
extra
a cool
mom.
way to like kind of introduce her to Tom Maryland too. So
it's also fun because it also just gives them a lot more, like it's a breath of fresh air in a season, kind of like going from like fight scenes and more like darker storytelling and world building to just have a moment where it's like, oh no, they're all just sitting, dancing around, talking about boobs. Like,
because we
just like a
can
nice
we
little
go
moment of
cut away
levity.
from like Child Bride to
yeah,
Yeah.
Chico, like, wow, whiplash.
yeah.
It is, yeah. No, that does like it's a very intense episode, so having that little breather there was like just a little like pretty refreshing and everything.
Yeah.
I still get that song stuck in my head though.
Oh,
It's
I've
a
had it
great
stuck
one.
in my
Like
head for the past few
constantly.
days
Yeah.
consistently.
It's
I
so
was
catchy.
just walking around the house humming it to myself the whole time.
Were you doing the hand movements when you're singing it, though,
Oh,
guys?
absolutely. Of course I'm doing the hand movements. Yeah, it's just the whole, yeah, absolutely. You can't do it without the hand movements.
It
Beautiful.
was a really fun scene though.
It
It
was
was fun.
great.
I like that she got to do encores. Like she sang it once and
Yeah.
they were like, keep going.
Yeah,
I would have requested one too. Like, keep singing.
absolutely.
It's just like when you get like a song that you really like and you're like, I must listen to this 4,000 times until I hate it.
Yep.
I will
Yep.
not be listening to anything else for the next week, basically, if
That was
for usually a little bit longer.
yeah. It's me and the Sinner soundtrack right now. So
Sounds about right.
uh yeah, overall, like banger. I'm trying to think. I really enjoyed what they did with the IEL this season, that we got to
Mhm.
see them more.
Yeah.
Because in the books, s- like we said, they're trying to make people people. Like in the books, I feel like the IEL were like, we're the fighters and we fight
Mhm.
and that's what we do and we have strict rules. But we get to sit with them a lot more in the 8 episodes and see like how they feed people, what their like interactions are together. And it's almost like an appreciation rather than look at the society that's very different than ours. So I really liked all the scenes with the IEL.
I
Agreed.
know this
Agreed.
isn't how it happened, but like it does feel a little bit like, oh, Dune did how good at the box office? Okay, we really got to focus on the IEL. Wow. All right, cool.
They
Damn, we
did Dune
know
it
how
at
we're
the
doing
That's
end.
season
more on
3.
Robert Jordan, I think.
Yeah, I mean Robert
Fair, yeah.
Jordan took
Robert
a
Jordan
huge
said,
amount
"Oh,
of
Dune sold how
inspiration.
many books?"
Yeah.
I'm doing that too, I've decided. In addition to Lord of the Rings, I'll just all the popular stuff. Let's fold it all in.
Yeah, that is more of an indictment on Robert Jordan because they
Yeah.
all are just over on what's the world of Dune? Um
Arrakis.
Arrakis.
Arrakis, thank you. With their little nose pieces. But yeah, I really liked seeing their world. I liked that we got to spend the time there, and I'm glad that they focused on that rather than just going to get Calendor this season.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
kept
I
expecting Kalendor, and I was sort of
Mhm.
surprised that it didn't sort of happen, but it does seem like, yeah, there was not a ton of time to really add that in without it feeling tacked on.
Can
yeah,
someone
we
remind me what happens with Couladin in the books?
basically what
Uh,
happens in the
yeah,
show,
it's
I think.
Okay.
very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
Was not
we
Sarah, you had
remembering.
something you were going to try and say.
yeah, I was gonna say we knew going in that we weren't getting Calendor this season. But I really like that one of the very pivotal moments for Rand in Kyrian is or wherever Calendor is, I forget where it is. Tyr, that's it, not
Here.
Kyrian.
Yeah.
Is the moment where like this little girl dies and he tries to revive her and can't. And we get
Yes.
that in Alcera, who is the granddaughter of what's his face? I'm blanking on his name. Um
The main Aiel man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Um
Ruark or something like
yeah,
that? Or is that
Ruark,
a
Yeah,
that was
different
Ruark.
it. Thank
guy?
you.
Wow, I got
Um
one. Amazing.
And it had so much more of an impact, I thought, because unlike in the books where Rand doesn't have a relationship with this child, and is just kind of generically sad, here it's his actions that lead to her death, and he
Mhm.
has like spent a lot of time with her and
Mhm.
does actually care for her. And so it made that scene hit real hard for me.
I
Actually, generically sad is a great way
I
to
was about
describe
to say
him and
that.
Perrin. Like, yeah,
Rand al'Thor, generically sad.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I did like that scene. They did say in the extras that it was really important to have that scene for them because like they had
Yeah.
read about it in the
Yeah.
books.
Well, it's a really pivotal scene for Rand's character.
Yeah. And like it is his moment where we're actually seeing some of the madness for the first time in the entire series. Because right now he's always like, oh yeah, I have to fight it. Oh yes, I have to do this. But he's like successfully doing that. And this is the first
Mhm.
time we really see like the taint like leaking through into
Yeah.
Rand.
Also, not really related to the scene in the show itself, but the little girl who plays Alcera, A was actually it wasn't a body double when like Rand was crying over her. That was her.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
Oh
And
wow.
B, her nickname on set was Squashy because because of the squash and because she
Yeah.
gets squashed, and she loved that.
Oh my God.
She got squashed. Oh
Squashy, she got squashed. What a beautiful little
no. I
thing.
love that she loved that. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
hilarious.
she was so into it apparently.
They found the most charming girl for that role, I will say.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
just she
like,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
She reminded me of my fiance's has a cousin who's just like the most autistic little child you've ever seen, who's just constantly sort of bounding about like, hey, what are you guys up to? What are we doing? And like just it's just like I was just like I need to protect this little
Yeah.
girl. I love
Squashy.
she's incredible.
Well, she was a great actress. I enjoyed her very much. And it's also just important because, like, it's where you see Rand first appreciating the culture he didn't grow up with. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's the first time he's like, well, I need to offer you tow. I'll definitely do that. And he's like doing it in this charming way with a child, which is how a lot of people feel like more attached to cultures is seeing it through
Yeah.
someone who's just interacting with you on the same level that of your understanding. And it was very effective.
And it's also probably a better way to show like a child introducing him to a culture because I think a lot of times adults are less willing to do so.
I mean, have you met Avienda?
I mean, Avienda does get called out for that.
Yep.
She does. But I mean, I don't really care that much for Avienda yet because she's just there. I care very much for her and Elaine's relationship. I hope those
Hmm.
two make it. But like, she's an interesting character more so because she's just talking about people who are a little bit more interesting right now. Like, I liked her scene with Egwene where she's like, this man has like violated your trust. Why are you still here? And you kind of see that like Egwene is willing to put that aside for the greater good, and it's like a good character moment for Egwene. But like Avienda, she's just sitting there yelling at Rand for not being born and growing up in the land he was supposed to be in. So
How dare he fulfill a prophecy?
The nerve of it. Just like a man.
just like a man.
Anybody
Do
have
we have
any
anything
favorite
else?
moments?
I mean, I feel like not a favorite moment per se, but we haven't talked about Mogedion at all.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
Oh
my
my God, she was
gosh.
horrifying.
And she's so horrifying. And that's all on the actress. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
that's what you
directors just
said.
said, you know, be weird, and she is the one who
Nailed it.
made it that weird. So incredible. Like I hated every minute of it, but it was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
She's
Yeah,
got
she's
some of the
great.
most horrifying scenes of just like not just like fantasy, just all of like sort of SFF TV shows and everything. It's just like she just has some of the scariest stuff. Like there was stuff that made me look away that was just sort of like,
Well, like her
holy
spitting
fuck.
food back into the bowls that people are later
Yes.
going to eat. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, that was wild. She does such a good job because that character was really important in the books, but she always seemed like they talked a lot about her being a coward, and Robert Jordan's like note of cowardice is like she comes on the screen and she's a coward. But they've added so many layers to her of like, well, yes, she is one of the weakest ones,
So
but
there's insecurity.
But she's
there's
still fucking
insecurity.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And like she's so good. That actress did such a good job. One of my favorite scenes was her Elaine and Nynaeve. And I was sitting there like, I really want to see Nynaeve punch her. And I was mad that we didn't get that scene.
Yeah, that scene with the three of them is just so chilling. The way that she can uh, compel them to ignore all of their like instincts to just act entirely contrary to their normal behavior.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like giggling and like,
yeah.
yeah.
And she would have gotten away with it. I mean, she doesn't really think things through, I think. So if she hadn't like left that mark on Nynaeve, she would have gotten away with it entirely. But it's so creepy and chilling and just excellent.
Oh yeah.
She's the one who sends like the gray man after Nynaeve in the early.
Yes.
So okay. I wanted to make sure because I really like the bit where like Moraine is talking to I think Lanfear and everything, and she's explaining how like everything that happened. She's like a gray man. Oh my God, you guys have to get out of here. Holy shit. Oh no, like even just that alone, like you don't even see her on screen that it's her until later, but it's just like that instinct. That someone like Lanfear is intimidated and just like terrified and like you guys have to get out of the city right now instantly ratchets up the tension, and then you get this scene with the fucking dude in the web and everything like almost immediately after. You're like, what the fuck,
It's so
what's
funny
happening?
that Leandrin is like, you're seen as weak, and everyone is fucking terrified of Mogideon. But
yeah, that's a phenomenal
amazing.
performance.
Yeah.
Just like the best type of dark friend, because I feel like the other dark friends we've seen like Ishi,
Right.
where he's like, I just want the world to break. I just want to convince Rand. And then you have Lanfear, who's like, I just want my boyfriend back, and I want him and I to take power. It's fun to see someone who's just kind of purely there to be a chaos agent. I think that's an effective, like, chosen one, as they keep calling them. So Forsaken.
It's good that like what I really appreciate about a lot of the Forsaken sort of stuff is that um a lot of the light, everyone siding with the light and everything have their own sort of internal squabbles, but then you go to like the sort of like the dark friends and everything, and they've all got their own internal shit too that they're figuring out. They're all fighting each other as well. It's not just like one really organized army behind like this fucking one evil fascist. It's just everyone there is also jockeying for power.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. Could have been a much more simplistic thing, and it's been made sort of very complex in a way that I really like.
Yeah,
it's
everyone
definitely not
has
like High
their
School
own
Musical 3.
agenda.
We're all in this together. So
Yeah.
Everyone does have their own agenda. What a great turning of the wheel. I really hope it comes back, because like this
I
is
hope
just
so too.
I'm gonna be so mad if it doesn't.
I
Like,
know.
it's such a good show. The casting is fantastic. The visuals are amazing. The storyline, yes, it's moving really fast, and I wish that they had more space for it, but it still manages to be so compelling.
Yeah, they're doing a lot with the space that they have in which to tell the
Yes.
story.
Yeah.
And I like when, so sometimes I feel like in TV shows when they're like, oh, this is shocking you because we're going against the TV, like going against the books. It feels like they're playing it well, where it's not like a shock for sake. It's like a jolt of like, this isn't the same story. So like Swan being killed at the end was devastating because you're not expecting it, but you're
Yeah.
like, okay, that's where we're at, where we can't, like, every time Alana was shot, I'm like, she could be gone, she could be dead. They're changing things and I can't trust them.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I feel like Swan, so Rafe has said that he and Sophie Okonedo, who plays Swan, talked about it and talked about where Swan's storyline goes. And like Sophie Okonedo just didn't have any interest in being sidelined like Swan is in the books.
Yeah.
Which is totally
fair.
understandable. Like, she is this really incredible in-demand actress, and I wouldn't want to have some kind of like bit romance with Gareth Bryn either.
Yeah.
So like, I get it, and killing
Don't
her
make me be married to
makes
him.
sense. Yeah, and like the role that she plays for Egwene later on in the series can be done by someone else.
Yeah.
It makes sense also for this character to go out with that kind of a bang and everything as well.
Yeah.
So like that, yes, it's a change, but it was again like a considered change. Like, they thought about the books. They didn't just do it for the sake of like the shock factor, like you were saying, Hannah.
Right. No, I agree. I can't wait to see
Apple
if this
TV.
gets picked up again. Yeah, Apple TV, please get it.
If you're
I trust
listening.
you guys, like, please get it. We're on board. We'll keep watching. We want to cover more seasons. You guys have to come back on.
And if there's no more Wheel of Time, let's pick another TV show.
Absolutely.
Yes. Did anyone else have any other highlights or issues they saw other than like Rand and Perrin are boring? But
I mean, honestly, I really just loved the whole season. I didn't have a lot
Yeah.
of issues
Yeah.
in general.
It was
Yeah, I had a great time watching this season.
a
Yeah.
lot
My
of
my only issue is that it was not long enough. Like I wanted
Yeah.
more.
yeah. This is a little bit of a lighter season than season 2 because I remember
Yeah.
I binged this and I was like, "Ooh, I remember last year that was a rough time because I think I binged it as
Hmm.
well." And it was tough, but here it was nice to just kind of have a breath of fresh air where you were just in the world for a while and you saw
Yeah.
some dark
Well,
stuff happen, but you
It was a lot
understood the
lighter on the
context.
torture and slavery.
I I mean,
Yeah.
Egwene goes through some rough shit in
Yes.
season 2,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that is really hard to watch because they made it like they did it really well,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and so it's really like hard. And there's nothing quite at that level in this season.
right.
Like
Which is
bad
saying a
shit
lot because there's
happens,
some
but
dark shit in this
yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like Egwene
Yeah.
being enslaved and them trying to
Yeah.
break her whole personality down.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. 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 No, that's genuine. Like that's the sort of darkest, most depraved thing in the show so far, at least. And it's like once you hit that sort of rock bottom, no matter how dark season 3 gets, it's not really going to hit that sort of depth.
Yeah, that's true. And that was really some incredible acting. Like I feel like
Yeah.
um the actress who played Queen got to kind of take a back seat, but it's like, well, she's proven herself. So I trust
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Madeline. Like she's gonna
Yeah.
deliver when she has to. So and their breakup scene, well, like very specific and we all saw it coming, was very sad, like
Hmm.
through her emotions.
Yes.
So that was nice. Um I
Any
can't
favorite
think.
characters before we close out?
I got nothing.
No.
All of them.
Loyal. I'm really
Yeah.
hoping Loyal comes back because that was very upsetting.
I don't think he will, unfortunately.
No.
He
Really?
he might. So Rafe did say like we don't see him actually hit anything.
Right.
Um, and I think if he comes back, it's going to be somehow through like being a hero of the horn because we do hear that music playing as he falls. But
Okay.
Oh,
Rafe was commenting like, yeah, he doesn't. I love Loyal, but he doesn't actually add much to the storyline. He doesn't do much. It's his it's hard like that makeup like that's just
mhm.
torturous
Yeah.
for the actor.
That's fair.
um and there are so many characters we just have to cut
Wow.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and they just don't know what to do with him. Robert Jordan didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
first, he was like, "I have a great idea," and then he's like, "Never mind."
I mean, he was the author of the books we were reading. Don't you
Yeah,
remember that? Who's gonna
he was like,
author
"I'm gonna
this?
pull a Frodo." Never mind.
yeah,
Right.
so as sad as I am about Loyal, I get it, you know, like I'd
Yeah.
Yeah.
love to see him come
Practical
back as a hero
considerations,
of the
right?
horn, but I just don't think that he's gonna be, if there is further show, I don't think that he's going to be
Right.
a huge part of it.
Yeah,
So
I can
sad.
see that as well.
Um, but yeah, then he got a very good send off. He was a hero, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I do find that a little sad. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Any other standout moments, standout characters for anyone?
No, I'm good. I mean,
Valetta and
people
Lanfear
should go watch it
forever.
if they haven't already, but I
Yeah,
don't know why
people,
they would listen
everyone
to
go
this
watch
whole
it.
podcast if they hadn't already, but still,
I
worth
mean,
it to just say.
even if you have watched it, go watch it again so that
Yeah.
hopefully we can convince some other studio to take it back
Go
up.
send a letter to, like, I don't know, Jeff Bezos or
Oh,
something.
jeez.
It's just to tell him, fuck you for canceling the show or whatever.
Right.
There we go. That'll
Everyone
really
go
get them to turn.
cancel their Amazon subscription.
Yeah.
Cancel your Prime subscription.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys both so
Yes,
much
thank
for coming
you.
on. Can you tell people where to find you or anything about your works or what you're doing?
I wrote The Fall Is All There Is and The Diplomacy of the Knife, which came out in February. It just went wide, so you can just get it anywhere you can find ebooks and paperbacks. And the first book is on audio. I am mostly on Blue Sky, Instagram. Yeah, I think those are the two main places you can find me.
At CM
Um,
Kaplan.
yeah,
So
yeah. I think Blue Sky is CM Kaplan writes. Instagram is the CM Kaplan,
perfect.
and yeah, I think that's everything.
And if you want to hear me talk more about Wheel of Time, you can find me on most episodes of Tarvalon Talks, which is available wherever podcasts are found. If you want to hear me talk about general books, with very little Wheel of Time content because Lily hates Wheel of Time. You can find me on Fiction Fans Podcast, which is also available wherever podcasts are found, or on Blue Sky and Instagram at Fiction Fans Pod. And our email address is fictionfanspodcast.com, I think.
Well, go follow them.
Not email, website.
Go follow them. Make sure you're reading their works or listening to their podcasts.
Yes.
And as always, you can find us at OWWR Pod on all the social media platforms where we exist. And please join us tomorrow for our regularly scheduled programming. And thank you for joining us for a TV Tuesday. All right. Thanks, everyone. We will bring you back on for a new show and hopefully more Wheel of Time soon. Bye.
Bye.